Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Robust Ramblings podcast. Today we'll be interviewing a good friend of mine, Philip Erasmus, previous drummer of Die Heuwels Fantasties, and now a well-known entrepreneur in the graphic design industry. Really excited to have this conversation, and it will bring lots of wisdom and inspiration for many people. Take your notebook out and let's listen. All right, so welcome back to the Robust Ramblings podcast, and today we are interviewing a good friend of mine that his name is Philip Erasmus. He's got an incredible story from drummer to entrepreneur to a business owner. And yeah, thanks so much, Philip, for joining us today.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure. Thanks for having me around.
Yeah, thanks, man. So we're currently doing this interview at 7 o'clock this morning, so it's an early one for us. So I really appreciate the early morning, Philip. So thanks so much.
It's children, they change your life around.
Oh well, I haven't gotten to that phase yet. So thanks for the heads up. I woke up this morning and I'm like, ish, it's a tad cold this morning. I don't know how's the weather in Cape Town, but yeah, in the northwest, it's quite chilly.
Sure. Northwest. No, it's pretty mild here in Cape Town at the moment. It started raining or whatever, but it's
Okay.
soon. So
Yeah. I'm actually in Potchefstroom. I don't know if you've ever been here.
yeah, no, I'm familiar.
Is it? Okay. So the timeline you gave me from 2014 till 2016, you took a sabbatical and you served on a farm with youth and a local church. What inspired your sabbatical in those years, and how was your experience on a farm with everyone?
Yeah, I mean, I had quite a dynamic exit to college when I started advertising, art direction and graphic design. But I think in my first year, I joined a band, and that we got into 5FM, and it sort of changed a little bit of my trajectory. I think I always loved design and all that sort of stuff, but I think the music industry was something that was quite interesting to me. And after leaving college, I had sort of no plans to go and form part of an agency, and was very much in the band's going to make it kind of mindset. And from there, I joined Die Heuwels Fantasties, and in 2009. And that was like the time that ensued between 2008, 2009, and 2014 was sort of like a wild ride. It was really, really awesome experience-wise and stuff. But I think it's like quite an all-in industry, friendship circle, also. Yeah.
So you got your arts degree in 2009.
Yeah, 2009.
And then from there you decided, hey, listen, I want to rock it out and I want to be a drummer, and you became the lead drummer for the Die Heuwels Fantasties. So actually, before going into your timeline, how was that? How was that whole experience as a professional musician actually in South Africa at that time?
Sure. The title professional musician is.
I've seen you play. I've seen you jam, and you're pretty good.
I can play drums, but there's a lot of people that are like, they're not professional, So I think it was cool to be in a band. And then if you play drums for almost like a living, then I guess by default you're a professional.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I think it was a cool time with friends mostly. It affords you obviously certain liberties in terms of the way that you can structure your life. A lot of travel on the weekends, but sort of always a new adventure. We managed to travel overseas a bit, and yeah, just great memories from that time in terms of just experiencing the world a little bit. So I think that sums it up a little bit for me. I don't know. Yeah, it was also a really creative time.
Oh, nice.
Making our own music.
Oh, that's cool.
Writing and stuff.
Oh, that's really cool. So after that whole experience, you decided to actually go into the sabbatical. You from 2014 to 2016, that whole experience, you said you went to a farm. How was that? Was it like farming, or was it like a tractor? Was it like like hands to the ground?
Yeah, I mean, an important component of the story is that like in that time of playing in the band, like I completely, my lifestyle was not really on the healthiest side. And when I left the band, then I sort of felt really quite like a decision to change my life around, and finding Jesus was like an important part of that journey. So, in that, I kind of come from where I have like connections with people that are quite, like famous people, I guess. And I think going back down to earth in the sense of like, I'm going to leave the band now. What lies ahead? I wasn't really sure. And to be honest, that was a pretty scary time because I kind of built a reality or a life on one part, and then that part's sort of going to get taken away, or it's not going to be part of my story anymore. So what now? And I think the time of just being a normal human being was my goal. I had the choice of going like either, you know, sort of just living normal life and going to church on a Sunday and that sort of thing. But I think I was almost in a bit of intensive care. So I was sort of seeking just to like get back to basics. So I found a farmer dude who is a real farmer, farms with like cattle and stuff. And yeah, so I stayed on that farm in like this little worker's house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stayed there for like 3 months.
And you literally in that time period, you were literally just trying to find yourself, who you are, your identity, and that kind of journey. That's the journey you went on.
Yeah, I think like I'd relied a lot on my charisma, I guess, in life up until that point, and also intellectual capacity for stuff. And I just kind of wanted to work a bit with my hands and have elongated time to myself as well. So that definitely gave me that. It gave me a serious bout of loneliness eventually.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, I don't know if you know about this, but I also served in a local church for like 4 years. And I must say it's a lot of work, and it's very humbling as well. So I know how you feel and what you're going through. And I see on your timeline you were formerly employed by a chauffeur as a youth pastor and an assistant. So how were those roles, and how did they shape you for your future endeavors?
yeah, that did big time. I mean, I
I
although
can imagine. I can actually imagine.
yeah, I mean, up until that point, I'd been pretty free in the sense of like being managing my own time, and like even in the employment I had previously. I mean, I started a studio with a friend in the time that I was in the band, so I had a structure to my life, and there was like a place to go to work, but I never had a boss. I never did a formal interview for any sort of position, and I think those kinds of things are, as you say, humbling. Not the work itself, but am I qualified for this specific thing? I kind of want to do it. Is this employer gonna, believe that I'm right for the role? And yeah, I had such great support in that role, and I also learned what it was like to have to do stuff you don't necessarily want to do. Certain hours where it's like, look, I'm not really doing anything right now, but to kind of be here, you know, that was not normal for me, but super, super good to
Yeah.
go through that.
And it's really humbling, and people think, hey, listen, working for a church, it's you just work on a Sunday, and you really don't. There's like so much happening from Monday to Friday, and then maybe you get a Saturday off, and then Sunday you're back on it. It's super humbling, but it's super enriching, and it teaches you so much. Like I've learned so much how to communicate, how to plan, how to not burn out. Actually, just from those 4 years that I actually worked at church. So yeah, I'm for that. So if anyone wants to go work at a church and find themselves, I advise that. so so in that period, you worked for a church for 2 years, and in 2018, you're like, okay, listen, I feel like I want to spread my wings and fly. So you launched a freelance design career and landed a e-commerce contract for Nike and sports scene content creation. That's insane. Yeah, maybe you can just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in my role at the church, I worked with high school students, and I also worked with homeless people in like the Belleville CBD area. And a part of that work portfolio was job readiness or work readiness. So getting guys who aren't really able to, meet the basic parameters that you would need to occupy a full-time job. They sort of don't meet those things. So you kind of have to help to support them to do that. And although that's really, as you say, like rewarding work, enriching, I realized in that time I was actually preaching a sermon series called Faithful with the Little. And it's all about what you got in your hand, what have you got to use and utilize, and how are you stewarding that in your life. And for me, I realized like in the heat of preaching these things and also speaking to high school kids about like, go after your dreams and all sorts of things, I sort of realized that there was a part of my life that I'd allowed, or a dream in my heart that I'd allowed to sort of die. I wasn't sure if it was really something I should be pursuing, and I was sort of almost, I think I was too afraid also to pursue, to pick it up. I'd much rather do something completely different than sort of revisit something I had tried and wasn't really like, didn't really feel for me. So yeah, in that time when I realized like, sure, economically in our country, we need employment um, and stuff. I think that led me to the decision of taking up business and sort of seeing what I could do with what I had in my hands. And so I reached out to a friend of mine who was a brand manager at Sports Scene at the time, and I said, look, if there are any like opportunities, then please like let me know. And there was an opportunity to pitch, and pitched in a day and a night and managed to win the contract. So that was super cool, man.
So would you say that really impacted your professional growth leading up to this day and age? Because I see you've achieved a lot more since 2018. How would you say that impacted your professional career? Saying, hey, listen, I'm going to deal with fear. I'm going to look at anxiety, lies, fear, all these things in the face. I'm going to say, listen, I'm going to do this. I know I'm called for something greater. How did you deal with that whole ordeal?
Yeah, I think it was scary because I was really rusty. And now it's time to like, bring it. But I sort of thrive under performance pressure a little bit. I think it's just sort of how I'm wired. Like
Rusty, as in like you've been out of the game a little bit.
I was like I'd worked to this point where I'm like, I feel like
Yeah.
worthy of this Nike contract. It was very much a launch pad where I had an opportunity to do something that I almost didn't feel qualified to do. I remember having a conversation with my girlfriend or fiance at the time, and I was like, sure, this is something like one day I hope to get, and then the news that it actually came through was just like this unmerited favor kind of thing, like just an opportunity. And I spring at those. So I think that's, I think that's something that I've been able to do, is like when I get the ball and I can like, run with it.
Yeah, no, that's insane. But by taking that step, you open up a door to work with more projects, mostly with the Fushini Group and with brand design for Puma and Put Me On campaign. Um, yeah, that's insane. Tell us about that.
So I think, I was sort of like I guess like a outside party, which for a lot of corporate environments, there are certain deliverables that you need to get over the line, and some of it becomes like repetitive. And a lot of times the in-house design component of an enterprise like that would need the assistance of just perspective or just fresh thinking or something. So I sort of occupied that role for a little while. I was pretty excited about the things that maybe people had been dealing with year in, year out, and it was for me like fresh. So I could look at these challenges like, doing in-store displays or whatever for a Nike window. I was like, flip, yes, please, let's do it. Maybe it was not the first time that somebody else had done that kind of thing. So I think that led to more opportunities to sort of take things and almost being a bit of like a launch assistance, like to things that from a branding perspective, can live as a campaign and have design integrity. I think I was also using quite a bit of animation at that time and trying to sort of sharpen up those skills and from a look development point of view. So they were seeing what was going on in that e-commerce contract, and they were like, "Flip, how can we integrate this into our business?" And I think that led to an opportunity to collaborate more.
So in this time, you were doing this all basically on your own capacity, not under a business. You were just saying, "Hey, listen, I'm Philip. I'm a freelancer. Let me do all this work for you."
Yeah, sole prop, working out of my garage initially.
Sheesh.
Dusty, and then and then eventually I actually sat at TFG for like, I don't know, probably a good few months, like maybe 4 months or so. But I realized in that time I was like, if you're gonna be, it's very easy to get comfortable. If there's like sitting very close to a well and we get you to go and fall. So I was like, sure, if I'm going to be taken seriously and if I really want to do my own thing, it's important that I like, go and approach other territories too. Otherwise, it's going to get imbalanced. Yeah. And the dream is to have a team.
So your dream was always to have a business, or be a business owner with a team. Okay. And this leads up to the 2020, and this is when we started actually talking when I was in Cape Town. Um, you executed your first 3D production as Let's Be Friends for a Dutch company. That sounds absolutely insane. So, what motivated you to explore that 3D production, and how did you experience the influence?
Yeah. I mean, so I've been working with, these shoe promotional things, like for every drop, it was called a drop, but like, so every new drop of sneakers that kind of came in that didn't have global assets for, we would create that. And I realized that what was happening globally was like the trend in terms of look and things. 3D was, becoming more and more popular. Still very much a premium service, but I saw it as like just really beautiful. I mean, you have like control over everything. So I collaborated with somebody on that project while they were still in college to try and see how feasible it was. But ultimately, it is a longer process. It's not easy for quick turnaround time kind of work. So you need to have an opportunity to execute something that you can have time to do. So when I got this opportunity from Stanley Carvin, who are based in the Netherlands, they wanted to do a brand film for a symposium that they were putting together. And I, at the time, was renting space at Arcade Studio here in Dimville. And it was like there was a freelance almost section. So in that freelance section, I built relationships with a guy who does in-camera work. And there was also a 3D animator that was also renting space there. So managed to almost like colonize that part of the work area for that time and work closely with those two people on that project. But that took us into lockdown. So essentially, the date got pushed forward a bit or pushed on, and we were able to, in lockdown, kind of animate. And so, very fortunate.
Yeah.
As everything else would have stopped.
Yeah. So, from what I understand, Let's Be Friends is your company.
Yeah.
And you officially launched it. So I'm assuming you registered it in 2021 as a company and employed the first 2 full-time employees. I think that was a massive milestone for you, especially with that being basically lockdown as well. How was that? Reaching your milestone, saying, "Hey, listen, I've registered my company that I've always wanted to register, and I've employed 2 people. I've got a team so far." How was that feeling?
Yeah, it was amazing. I think it was super exciting. Also scary. I remember talking to Cecile about it because, I mean, you get used to the consulting kind of life. It can be really profitable. I mean, the only person that stands to benefit at the end of the day is you as an individual. And in a company format, like, you have to think around, wow, am I going to generate enough business? Is there going to have a bump up with having these additional resources that will allow still for like me to have a life that is, relatively comfortable? Am I going to be stressed at the end of evenings and, what? But yeah, I think just having the additional manpower was the exact right thing at the right time. And allowed us to offer more to our existing clients, and then also it just allowed us to grow as a company in our offering, the collaboration factor. So yeah, it was definitely a milestone. I mean, I remember the setup, like getting the two computers. I was so like pedantic about having like matching keyboards, matching chair, making sure everyone's going to be comfortable. Made like monks that said, "Hello, my name is," and then the employees' names.
That's so cool, though.
Yeah, so yeah, that's very cool.
So, apart from you wanting to start your own business, was there anything else that inspired you to start Let's Be Friends?
I think the name originated for me in
Yeah, let's talk about that actually.
I mean, it is a fairly quirky name. It's, people from SARS or people from the bank often laugh when I have to give my company name to them. But yeah, I think in school, when I was in like high school, street art was quite a big thing. Putting stickers up in the neighborhood, or I mean, I wasn't a very big like spray painter, and I guess I know it's illegal, so I officially never did that. But I wasn't really a graffiti artist or anything, but there was a strong like street culture thing that was going on, and the tags at that time were like super badass, either really short so that you can do it or whatever. And I chose a tag that was sort of a little different. So Let's Be Friends was like essentially my street art name. And I started out by doing like I dressed up stop signs with like tires, like as if it was like a work tie. And I would like sort of, so where the stop sign like stopped, then I'd put a little tie with a few friends in cursive written in Koki on like vinyl. So that's for me. It was sort of almost coming at something that's quite badass with
Sheesh.
a
Yeah.
angle. Let's be
Yeah,
friends.
yeah. Yeah.
It always stuck with me, and I think for me the thing that it represents today, not so much the street art vibe at all, but it's more about the collaboration and the relationship aspect, working together on creative stuff.
And what year was this more or less that you got this thing of Let's Be Friends?
Like 2003.
Yes, man. And like it's just amazing for me to see that these things get deposited into our hearts so early, and it's literally our responsibility to nurture it or to ponder on it and then actually take it. It's like a talent given to you and grow it. And now you've literally taken the seed and you've grown it into a company. So it's just absolutely amazing to see. So um, with that being said, did you face any obstacles with with
Ingrained
with
is sort of where it is now.
yeah, when 2021, the early stages, obviously this is when you just started your company.
Mm.
Did you face any obstacles?
Um, like I don't have any in my mind at the moment. To be honest, it's been a relatively straightforward curve of growth. I think for me there was like a potential plateau at some point, especially with the Fashini work, when I was sort of like, there's definitely a ceiling here. What is our next? What is the next way that we can grow? And I think that's when the checkers, a component of our business, was introduced. And so I got an opportunity to work on 60/60 on two levels, and like from a marketing and design consultation point of view when the launch happened. So I remember going to the like sort of small startup styled offices within the Checkers complex before on any of the stuff had taken up or taken like flight, because it really like ramped up over that lockdown period. And then sort of taking on some UI work for them, which was, my wheelhouse at that time. But that was really like a cool little transitional time that sort of paved the future for us being able to grow with 60/60 as well. They've been like the biggest supporter of our company. And yeah, it's allowed us to grow with stability. Not so much. I mean, I think Ron's dream is to do project based work that you can be selective, I guess. But our strategy to be able to have stability for our team is to have like an anchor, well, in our client base, and that very much today is Checkers. So yeah, very grateful
So
to that.
so just to clarify, you worked on various other 3D projects and started working as the design agency for 6060, which we all know is Checkers and a UI and digital marketing level. This is in 2022 until 2024. So you've been running with this since for those 2 years now.
Yeah, I mean, I think I first started working on a consulting basis with 6060 around 2020, yeah, pretty early on. But it sort of only ramped up in that time, yeah.
Yeah, and how do you, like, I don't know about you, but like the bigger the project, the more stress I get. How do you actually deal with that? Or don't you get stressed because you're used to being in front of people, or like are you just Iron Man or Batman or something like that? And you don't feel these emotions, but yeah, how do you deal with these feelings? Like, am I gonna make it? Am I not gonna make it? Is my business gonna under deliver, or are we gonna over deliver? Um, how do you fight these thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, Aaron. I mean, there's a fair amount of adrenaline that goes along with client-based work, especially when there's a time frame. There's the there is the pressure to deliver a product that somebody's satisfied with, and often that becomes like it's a challenge to get things over the line. And it's one thing if you have one thing to get over the line at a time, but now we're sitting with like 7, 8 guys, and that means that there's different work streams happening simultaneously, and so there's different projects that need to be delivered on at different times. And so I've kind of gotten used to a bit of an adrenaline in the day of working from one thing to the next, especially, like I still am very much a part of the conversation in a lot of the work that our studio does, even though, we have more people like doing the actual work, but I still have to be present. So it's difficult sometimes, I think, to not feel like really jumbled. But I do, like, in terms of personality wise, I think I thrive on having more than one thing to do at a time. I would struggle if there's just one thing that I would have to like dedicate. It's too much. I don't use my time wisely if that's the case. If I have too much time in a brief, I sort of don't know what to do with myself.
Oh wow,
Because
okay.
I have to manage, like, yeah, 2 hours to focus on this, let's get this done, and then
Yeah.
the next thing. So it helps me. I don't know if everyone's like that, but I do think,
Yeah, so confession, I'm definitely not like that. I'm the one task man. So like you can give me the tasks, but like if all the deadlines are on the same day, I start stressing a little bit. So I still get it done. But stress is a factor. Maybe it's, I don't know, it's too much pressure or something. But yeah, I need to take a chapter from your book, Philip, and just say, hey, listen, chill, bro. You've got this.
yeah. I think there's a certain level of belief that builds up over time in knowing that you have delivered in the past and you can deliver again. In the beginning, it's becomes more and more like it was intimidating before there were like multiple things happening, but now it's like we've done this. This is what we do. This is why people come to us. This is what we paid for. And trust in that like specialization that you have or whatever under your belt. But I think that's just experience or something. I don't have a ton of it, but
Yeah.
oh,
Well, it sounds like you got a ton of it. So yeah, I think it's just also something about just believing in yourself as well, and just saying, "Hey, listen, bro, you've got this. You've been developed for this. You got the contract for a reason. So hit it out of the ballpark." And it's really difficult to believe that positive affirmation that one gives themselves sometimes. I don't know if you have those days, or are you just super on point positive all day?
I think I do feel bogged down from time to time where it all feels like a lot. And it's a case of especially when you're working with with bigger clients, the needs can start to feel like they can dwarf you a bit because it's like, sure, okay, we have to get this done. There's no way out of this one that's like, get it done kind of thing. So there are days where it feels intimidating. But just like a cool story to sort of tie in with what you're saying about the affirmation aspect. I think it's super important. I've got a really affirming wife. Also, like, people in the studio, the culture is to affirm one another, and that's super important. Like, just to recognize if somebody's done something well. It's something that can easily be overlooked, and often you can't expect a client to be in that way. They're also busy. So I think internally it's important just to like keep the spirits up. Um, but when I first submitted a CV, this is like the story for anybody who's doubting themselves or whatever. I first submitted a CV for that TFG position in the beginning, which wasn't really a position; it was just like a shot in the dark. And I sent it on to the person who was gonna like sort of pass the CV on, and he said, "Look, dude, you've given me vanilla ice cream here, but I know that you're an Oreo McFlurry. So can you please make the CV a bit more Oreo McFlurry? You're too humble. Like you're too like you don't know, you don't back yourself."
Oh wow.
And I was like, sure, okay.
Okay.
And I have to go and make an Oreo McFlurry. So I think it's definitely important to not undervalue or like under
Yeah.
what you can do.
You grew your company from only 3 people. I'm assuming that includes yourself, right?
Yes, yeah,
Okay, to 8,
yeah.
and it's a small team. And how do you actually maintain company culture? Apart from the affirmation that you spoke about, what's like a routine? Do you guys work remotely? Do you guys work on site? Are you for remote work? Are you not for remote work?
So yeah, it's a good question. I think for me, I envisioned uh, like our clients, and I envisioned like just for the future of our company to have a physical space that we can share. And I think also that lockdown period was just so nothing, it was just like so sobering in terms of the value of being able to be together. With creative work, I think it's important to be able to bounce stuff together. I think it is possible to do it remotely, absolutely, but there is a certain energy of being able to walk over to somebody or see what they do or whatever, and have a discussion in person is just such a luxury. It's super cool. Um, so yeah, so we're sort of a big fan of like having an office space, and but we generally start our weeks off with just like how was your weekend, and we sort of say a word of prayer in the mornings, just of like a Monday morning. Then we have things that are a bit more occasional, like show and tell, for example, which is where somebody in the studio can come and just share something that they've maybe done in the past that they're interested in, something they've watched, something or whatever, and they just sort of share that thing for a half an hour. It's open to questions. So, for example, Christian bakes, and so he showed us he gave us a tutorial on sourdough and all the complexities of that, which
Oh
came
wow,
loaf of bread, which is
that
so
is lovely, by the way.
yeah, stuff like that breaks the rhythm or like the repetitive nature of like day in sort of thing, just keeps it fresh. Good enough, to be honest. It gets busy. Um, but yeah, stuff like that. And I think we tend to try and laugh as much as possible. Like it can get super uber serious. Everybody who has an objective is super serious about getting that objective done. But I think, sitting around the table with guys who are very effective, very productive, it's important that like you don't lose the joy aspect of that. Hey, I'm actually conversing with a fellow human being. Yeah, this person also asks every now and again. Like we all have our like humanity that we bring to, regardless of how smart we are. So I think it's important to like keep that perspective.
And how do you actually deal with the like reality? People are people, and there are some serious conversations that need to be held within the company sometimes, or like there's just some negative energy. I don't know if you guys have that, but how would you deal with it, or how have you dealt with it?
I mean, I think it's important to manage pretty closely, I would say. Like, I think it's difficult if you were to do it alone. Especially I think just dealing with people like a group, and if you feel like an outsider as almost like the employer or whatever, I think the bigger your team gets, the more you need support. So that it feels like a team, and as a team, you sort of are protective of a certain culture. And then, but I think it's also important, like as a leader, as somebody who's sort of like, I guess, in a position of leadership within this company, to address things if you see them before they fester and become toxic. I think one-on-one conversations are important. I often do check-ins with employees just to like also check it out, like how are we doing growth-wise? Are we headed in the right direction that you want to like be in? Are you feeling fulfilled by your work? Yeah, it's just important to like have that human touch base.
Yeah.
Somebody doesn't feel like they're just here to perform a task and do it and get paid and go home and that's it,
Yeah.
you know.
And I also think that changes the whole dynamic of work. Seeing, hey, listen, my inverted commas, my boss is leading with me and not telling me, hey, mush, do this, mush, mush,
Yeah.
like,
Mush.
and yeah, like with a stick,
Yeah.
and you're like, hey, listen, guys, we've all got the same common goal. We want to grow, we want to develop, and let's
Yeah.
do it together. It's one team, and I think people appreciate. I know I appreciate that a lot more than the whole do this, jump here, and buy me a coffee.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, man, I've had it rough a couple of times.
Sure, man.
Um, yeah, so uh, with all this being said, is there anything like noticeable or an awesome achievement that you guys have achieved in this time period that you'd like to tell us about?
I think for me at the moment, I think it changes from time to time. The project highlights are cool, like being able to work with an international brand and know that they are, this little studio in South Africa are using your content that you've created. Like, for example, we recently worked with ASICS Europe and we did like the launch. This is our second time we've done the launch assets for their tennis range. And, it's like, we had Djokovic's shoe in our studio before anybody else had seen it, kind of thing. And,
That's insane.
yeah, cool. And like,
That's so cool.
intimidating task because you have to take that shoe from a physical product, scan it in high res, remodel that entire thing, and then create a series of content that can be used by a massive brand, And I think delivering those things, getting them over the line initially was extremely tough. I mean, like, shout out to Christian who does the 3D, for his hard hours of graft, especially on that initial project. But what I'm most proud of is that we've gotten better at our system. Like, we've gotten
Mm,
better at like producing the goods, and it's not like it gets harder. It's getting easier because we understand what it takes to craft something well, and to that it needs team members, it needs time, and that everybody needs to be able to play to their strengths. So managing that kind of workflow for sustainable delivery of quality is kind of the goal. And I think we're getting closer. It's still every now, it's still a madhouse, It's like when there's client feedback and it's a span in the works, but I think we're understanding what we need to do a little bit better now. So.
okay. So I don't know if you can disclose this. For your art or your graphic design and all the things that you guys do, where can I see it? What exactly must I look for in the stores or online to find your guys' work? Because I'm like, hey, listen, like I do this with everyone. Like if I know someone that I know has made this, I'm like, hey, listen, how cool is this? My friend made this. Please support them. Like networking. So what can we look out for your guys' products?
So if you go to any checkers, any sort of 3D asset that's there. So for example, if you ever see a driver on a bike, or if you ever see a grocery bag standing with nice shadows on it, or any sort of 60/60 marketing within a store or online, on social media or on the app, like that's all produced by our studio. So essentially that, like if you see a checkers out on TV and you see a little 3D driver going across the screen, that's, made in our studio.
That's
And
insane.
same thing with that Rugby World Cup, like that little dancing driver with the promotional, giving away $1 million each week. That was,
Was that you guys?
yeah. So,
That's insane, man.
yeah,
That is so
that's,
cool.
yeah. And then I don't know, we've done a whole bunch of like e-commerce stuff all over the place, but, yeah, you can check out our Instagram and see like, it's them.
Oh,
We don't
okay.
often, but I think we're pretty selective with what we sort of want to showcase as part of our brand, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So
we
your
will-
Instagram is at Let's Be Friends.
yeah, at Let's Be Friends.tv. Unfortunately, Let's Be Friends is it's very common
Oh.
concept. People want to on Facebook.
I think everyone just wants to be friends, man. They just want to be friends. So Philip, reflecting on your whole journey, from 2014, from actually being a drummer, so way before 2014, 2009 actually. What are some key lessons you've learned, and what would you like to share with inspiring designers and business owners or entrepreneurs or even people that just need a little push in life?
Mm. Look, I mean, I think it's important to stay true to what the dream is in your heart. For me, like I didn't ever have a dream to be a drummer in a band necessarily. I think it was something it's like it's not something I'd say no to. I enjoy playing drums, but I think there were certain other factors that were more attractive, that made that part of my sort of jump, like, yeah, that sort of influenced that decision. But if I was to sit down and think, am I doing what I want to be doing? Oftentimes, the answer would be no. That there were so many other things that I was hoping to achieve, or so many other things that I kind of felt more gravitated towards. And one of those things was this creative work that I'm kind of doing now. So I think it's important to like just do a reality check, or a check of, there's often going to be, maybe most times, that you're going to be doing stuff that is not necessarily aligned with like what you feel, who you feel you are necessarily. And it's important to build an identity that's bigger than your work, but also in terms of like just the enjoyment factor of the amount of time you're going to be allocating towards something, and the sacrifice it actually takes to, choose a vocation with your life. It's important that you are like doing something that you want to do. Or at least finding a way to be fulfilled in like performing an act of service, or something, because without that, I think I'd be disillusioned, and become one of those critical people. I don't want those people. I'd much rather focus more on like, refining my own interpretation of the dream in my heart, cutting out things when necessary, pruning the tree and making sure I'm growing in the right direction. Because I've had to uproot my tree. Do you know what I mean? And
Sure.
that's super painful. Just like, okay, not this, something else.
Ah,
Which is all fine. I mean, it's all part of the growing process. But yeah, I think it's cool to stay in shape
which
with.
which which I think is really good. Like uprooting, like people look at it so bad, but I think like I'm into bonsai trees, right? So once every 2 years, you need to uproot the whole tree out of the pot in order to prune the tree and prune the roots and then put it into clean, well, not clean, but fresh soil. And the tree really flourishes out of that. And people don't know that process, and they're like, you're killing the tree. And then like a month later, the tree looks so beautiful. They're like, yeah, what happened? And I think that just ties into what you're saying is being uprooted is sometimes a good thing because it allows you to grow in areas that you didn't expect to grow in. So yeah, 100%.
Out of your comfort zone. That's where your growth.
100%.
Oh,
Yeah. So
mm.
I actually read this crazy quote now, like in my diary while I was making some notes. It's by Thomas Edison, and it says, "Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up."
Well,
Insane.
no.
So, yeah, Philip, just before we end, I do this with everyone that I interview, and I ask them to ask one question um, before ending the podcast. So a question will be asked for. So this question will be asked. This well, I'll ask the next guy this question. So if you've got a question, that would be great. Um, but yeah, I've actually got a question for you from the previous guy.
Okay, cool.
So you can ponder on your question and you can answer this one is, what is your shoe size?
I'm a size 10. You go.
Okay, and a more serious question, he laughed after this one, is what do you prefer? What do you prefer, being ambitious and setting high goals, or sizable goals and achieving them?
Say again. Repeat for me. Just want to digest it again.
What do you prefer, being ambitious and setting high goals, or sizable goals and achieving them?
Sure. No, I'm definitely on the ambitious side, but I've realized that it can be too super stressful if you don't have interim goals that you actually meet. It's like, I don't know, I play golf every now and again, and it's like, making sure you're nailing the short putts before you expecting to nail the long one is gonna be with confidence on the course. To all the golfers out there.
Awesome. And a question you would like to ask?
Okay, I'm gonna be far more left field than that. Than I think.
That's all right.
So, if you were to fashion for yourself a pair of underwear, and you had to use a natural hide of a specific animal, which animal would you choose for your custom set of underwear?
That's insane. Thanks so much, Philip, for this awesome conversation that we had today. I really pray and I hope you guys have a blessed journey with your business and all the best for your future. And just thank you for your time and for all the input and knowledge that you gave us today.
Legit, man. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thanks, Sergio. I appreciate it.
Thanks. And stay tuned for the next one, guys. Thanks.
Cheers.
I just want to say thanks to everyone for listening, and I just want to encourage everyone just to subscribe, go to our social media pages, Instagram, LinkedIn, and if you guys are keen on booking a call with us to do a session with us and just have good chats, book a call on our Linktree link, and see you guys in the next one. Thanks.